what we're gonna focus on. What are the best parenting techniques?
Were they watching?
Yelling. Yeah, they was live.
Okay.
Smart, dude.
All right, we got it. Hey, North Carolina's tuned in. They say, welcome, Sam.
Oh, thank you.
Sam is here. What's new, buddy? What's been going on? I saw you recently. I saw you in Seattle maybe 2 months ago, something like that. That was a nice treat.
I was coming down the stairs. You were coming up the stairs
Yeah.
at the wonderful Capitol Hill Comedy Bar.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of my home. I guess that's kind of my home club. I don't really have like one comedy club that I work. I kind of do my own thing, but I'd probably do more stuff there than any other club. So
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty nice.
So for people who don't know you, you've been doing comedy a long time, super unique, very original, out of Olympia, Washington. When did you get, like, how did you get started in comedy?
It was about 2014, so like 10 years I've been doing it. You know, I've been in recovery for 16 years, and people in recovery told me that I should do comedy. And I was like, oh, I'm a dishwasher. I got a good thing going. And then one day I walked in and I did an open mic. I think I did like a storytelling show before that or something like that. I did this storytelling show, and I got a lot of laughs when I told the story. I told a funny story, and then I was kind of like, I always thought about doing it, but I was always like embarrassed by the idea of doing stand up, because it seems like I'd seen it done really poorly. And even like some of the people that are famous, I was like, I don't really like that. The guy seems kind of like a weirdo. And but then I walked into an open mic downtown Olympia. I actually knew the guy that was hosting it because I was a bouncer at a bar.
Okay.
And I knew him from when I was bouncing. And he put me up immediately. And I immediately was successful. So, yeah.
An original story.
Yeah.
It never happened.
It went
amazing.
My first time up, I did a good job.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. It wasn't, I wasn't changing the world or nothing, but I did really good. So
yeah, that's all. I've seen you. I'm not surprised at all. You're so funny.
Oh, thank you. That's nice too.
Let's talk about. So you're kind of unique. You travel quite a bit. What's the farthest away you've traveled?
Well, Maine. Yeah, it's as far away as you can get from Washington
Great Falls
State.
In Maine?
I did do Great Falls. Yeah, I did Great Falls.
What a fun room.
Yeah, I like those guys. I worked with them. They helped put together some stuff in Portland. I did a thing in Long Island, or on Long Island, not in Long Island. You don't say in Long Island, you say on Long Island.
Okay.
They got really pissy about that, which was stupid because nobody cares, except people that are on Long Island. I guess they care. Yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool. In Florida too is really far away. I've been working in Florida. They like me in the northern part of Florida in the Panhandle. They don't like me in South Florida. I don't think I'm going to go back to South Florida for a while. So.
That's funny. I have been to South Florida a couple times and don't really care for the comedy and or audiences there. I mean, it's hard to generalize like that, but it does seem like it's a different thing that's going on down there.
It's expensive and it's hard to get people out. It seems like there's a lot of folks there and they kind of have the thing that they want to do. And I don't think it's really like comedy, I don't think they're really into comedy. So whatever.
What have you done in the Panhandle? I've never been to the Panhandle. Driven
through. What was it? Pensacola.
Okay.
I can't remember the other places. I guess I don't know if it's really the Panhandle. It's like Jacksonville. It's just not South Florida. Like I've done Orlando and Jacksonville, and honestly, the crowds weren't great there, but they were way better than Boca. And you know what? Even me right now, like I'm not really like being fair because like pretty much the only thing I did was Boca, and they didn't like it, so they didn't like me. That show was rough. That's like a 200 seat venue, and I think I had like 10 people there. And it might
Oh.
be more than that. It might actually be 250 seats.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, yeah. It was rough. So
That's
it's
just
like
an attendance thing.
yeah, I'm telling my wife to come get Jazzy out of here too. So my
Okay,
dog's in here.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll
I'm
figure it
sorry
out.
that my child started this podcast.
I was
he
like, "Man,
he
you're
was
that
playing
Botox is really working, Sam."
yeah, yeah, he was playing Roblox. It would have been really funny if you put the headphones on and figured out that like something
I didn't realize
something
there
was
were
off.
headphones, so I was just talking, and I was like, "Oh, he's ignoring me. Okay, fine."
Yeah. He didn't know. I got it all set up, you know. I got it all set
Terrific,
up.
terrific. Um, let's see. Well, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this because usually I'll ask people about like running shows and getting the beginning of comedy. But you're like a real, you're out there doing it. You're selling merch. You got fans.
Oh
You're
yeah.
um. Tell me, maybe we could talk about like constructing a run. Like when
Oh, wow. Okay.
you want to talk
Yeah,
about
I
that? Tell me about
actually
a run you're proud of and like how it
mm,
came together. Is that something you could talk about?
geez, I sure can. I mean, it always starts with like an anchor show. Like that's kind of how I do it. So
Okay.
I'll have a show where I know there's like guaranteed money and
Mhm.
maybe a decent crowd or like as close to that as I can get. Like I'm about to go to Montana, so I'm going to Bozeman. I'm doing Last Best Comedy. That's one of the
Okay.
first clubs that ever headlined me. I always do well in Bozeman. I
Okay.
got a nice fan base there. And
Okay.
so that's my anchor show. And then I build around it. So I think that is a Saturday. No, it's a Friday. It's a Friday in Bozeman. And
Okay.
then I got a Saturday in Missoula. I mean, I got a
Nice.
Thursday in Missoula. So and then
Okay.
a
What's
Missoula
that? What's
Bozeman.
in Missoula?
I'm doing the ZAC, the Zootown Arts Center.
Okay.
Um,
Never been
I
there.
have a friend out there, and then I'm headed to Ellensburg, and then I'm headed to Idaho, and on the Sunday. So
Wow.
that was one that got a little bit complicated because randomly this guy from Idaho hit me up, and I'm because what'll happen is I'll have these runs that are mostly booked in the future, and then I'll have people that'll hit me up, and sometimes what people want like works out. They're like, hey, like I had somebody who hit me up about a corporate in Pittsburgh, and I'm like, well, crap, I'm already in Cleveland the day before. And I'm
Okay.
like, that's perfect. I'll just add this corporate. And then they didn't get the corporate, but
Okay.
but that's all right, you know. And that's what I'll do. I'll go.
I don't know your act super well. If you do a
Mhm.
corporate, are you
Yeah, dude,
working
I work
clean?
clean. I can,
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
I can.
Great.
I don't write. I'm not. I don't think I'm super dirty.
No, it's
It's
just your
definitely a
content.
thing.
Your
Yeah,
recovery stuff is,
yeah,
maybe
and a
not
lot of my
something you'd want Susan from HR to be sitting next to you during.
yeah, they can get weird, but even that recovery stuff, like I can kind of do it different.
Hmm.
Um, I can um I can do it in a way where I can talk about it and I just focus more on and I do that sometimes. I've done shows for like because I live in Olympia here. It's where the capital of Washington, and I've done shows for like state agencies, no problem. You know, I've
Nice.
done shows that start at 10 in the morning while people are drinking coffee and eating donuts. Um, I'll take any. I mean, you have to be open to that stuff because if you're going to make a living doing this and you can't like adjust to what a crowd wants, then you're going to have a long road. A long
Yeah.
road.
Yeah. I had
So,
something happen recently. I wonder if you have any experience with this. I did a club in a big city and it was like an off night and they had papered the room with a lot of foreign tourists.
yeah.
And let me tell you, I haven't bombed that hard in a while with good
Oh,
material.
really?
Like
Yeah.
I was shocked. Like, I don't think of my jokes as like needing to be like part of America, but then reflecting on them, yeah, like almost every single one, you wouldn't get it if you didn't live here in America or it wasn't your first language. Because I have some like work
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Have you ever? Well, I guess kind of related to this. Have you ever done cruise ships?
No, I haven't. I know people that book them, and I feel like especially Carnival, like I'm kind of ready to go for that if I wanted, but
Okay.
I got to put the work in. And honestly, like I'm kind of in a spot where I don't really need to do it right now,
Nice.
and I worry about how long it takes to be away from home. I don't
Yeah.
like to do maybe twice a year. I'll do 9-day runs, and then I do a lot of 5-day runs,
Okay.
and it's hard on the family, man. You know it is. Usually, I'll do Wednesdays through Sundays sometimes. But you know it's funny to your point though. I haven't worked for like a mostly foreign crowd, but um, I have worked with a comedian named Zenjiro from Japan. I don't know if you've ever run into him.
No.
He works in the States a lot. He was in the Seattle International Comedy Competition. He did my room in Olympia. And one time I asked him, like, we were talking about comedy, and I was like, yeah, it might be cool to come to Japan sometime. And he was just like, he's like, they wouldn't like you. I was like, yeah. Yeah. He's like, all your drug jail stuff. He's like, they don't
Yeah.
like that.
Huh. Yeah, it was
I
pretty
was like,
humbling. This was just like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "All right, well, I just need to know. I need to figure out ahead of time what are some of my jokes that I know are universal and could
yeah,
work. You know, they're kind of silly and whatever." And I just wasn't prepared. I figured it out like a minute and a half in. I did a joke that was kind of politics. I almost never do politics, and it kills everywhere, but nobody laughed. I was like, "Are you guys from outside the country? What's happening right now?" And I pointed to somebody. I was like, "Where are you from?" And he was like, "Berlin."
yeah, they don't,
Okay,
yeah,
I nailed it.
yeah. I'm really, you know, what's funny is I have like a big following in like Australia, especially like Victoria, like that part of
Okay.
Australia. It's very, my comedy is very popular there, and as well as in the UK. But I don't think, you know, I had a guy come to a show one time from Germany. And I was like, dude, I'm so stupid sometimes. I was like, I don't get it. I'm so popular in like the UK and Australia, but it doesn't seem like I have a lot of fans in Germany. He's like, yeah, we speak German. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that does make sense.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's like, how come I have all these fans in countries where they use the language that I'm using? You know,
Right.
I don't seem to be very popular in Vietnam. What the
Right.
fuck? Oh, sorry.
That's
I don't know if I'm supposed
hilarious.
to swear or not.
Ah,
My
that's
bad.
okay. Doesn't matter.
No,
Uh,
it does. I'm trying to be clean. I'm trying to get more of these corporates.
oh,
So
okay. Okay.
yeah,
All right, well, let's talk more about this run construction stuff. What do you do when you have an off night? Let's say you're in like Topeka or
man.
you're driving through Topeka on a
Yeah,
Thursday night.
yeah.
Do you know somebody in almost every city in America and you call them up and you're just like, "Hey, I need to get on here." Do you rent your own venue? Do you just spend a day at a museum? What's the Sam Miller playbook?
You wouldn't believe there's there's so many different ways that I do it. I have a booking agent named Michael Glatzmeyer. He's like a newer booking agent, but he's doing really well. I mean, sometimes he does really well, sometimes it's rough. But I always have to ask myself, I'm like, is this because he's gotten me into some really great spots? Um, when it's bad, man. I don't like I do my best to promote everything I do. Sometimes we're running ads, stuff like that. We do our best to get people out. I usually know people in those areas. What I'm finding though is that like so you got to remember like I've been doing comedy 10 years. It's been my full-time job for 3 years, but only in the past 2 years have I been like all over the country. Well, past year and a half really have I really been like national headliner. And what what I'm finding is that the second time I go somewhere, and some of it's like just social media algorithms, whatever. The second time I go somewhere, I do a lot better.
Hmm.
But to go to a place the second time, I have to go there the first time. And that first time, I don't know what to expect, man. I crashed and burned so hard in Atlanta like 2 weeks ago. I was at the Punchline in Atlanta, great club, nice people. I'm at the Punchline in Atlanta, and I had 6 pre-sales on a Thursday night or something, or was it Wednesday? I can't remember. It was a Wednesday or Thursday.
Hmm.
I had 6 pre-sales. I wound up with like 11 people there, 12 people, something like that.
Brutal.
And yeah, dude, it's brutal. And you know, the thing that's funny about it with me too is it's not just like, yeah, it's 6 pre-sales, 11 people total, but 4 of those people bought my shirts online off my website. Like they are Sam Miller fans. And
Nice.
it's hard. And so I get embarrassed sometimes and I'll be like, man, like these people. I talked to Bo Johnson about this a lot because he's at a similar level than me and he's dealing with it. But then check this out, right? So like I never let Atlanta get that down. And I had a guarantee, so I made a certain amount of money. Um, but then the next day I was in Birmingham and we had a great show in Birmingham. And the next day I was in Columbus, Georgia, and we had another really good show where
Nice.
like a lot of people came out to see me because they see my stuff online and they come out. Um,
What's the venue in Columbus that you did?
oh, I was like some arcade.
Okay,
Um,
like an indie
it was
show? Like
it was kind
somebody
of wacky.
like
Yeah, it was like
a regular
independent
monthly.
producers. This is Michael booked this run. So I,
Okay.
you know, the details I'm not even sure of.
And how do you get
Michael
to
booked
Atlanta?
it.
Do you fly in, rent a car, and drive
Oh
around?
yeah, flew into Atlanta and then I flew out of Atlanta the next day. I mean, I flew out of Atlanta at the end of that run. A lot
Right,
of times what I'm doing is I fly into I'll fly into like I do this thing, I'll fly into Indianapolis if I'm doing Bob and Tom or something, I'll fly into Indianapolis and then I'll fly out of Chicago. That's
okay,
my big thing right now is I really want to go back to Chicago. I'm working on it right now. That's going to happen here soon. So
nice.
I love
What
Chicago.
rooms have you done in Chicago?
I've headlined at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. I've done really well in Chicago.
Nice.
Um, that was a wild experience. My relationship with Chicago is really strange. For a comedy story, people like it. It sounds like this is like
You
I think you'll appreciate this. Geez, it's probably right after I started going full time, so about 3 years ago. I was doing a show for people in recovery, an NA show in Dixon, Illinois, which is
okay,
about an hour south of Chicago. And then 3 days after that on Sunday, so Thursday I was on Dixon. Sunday I'm in Traverse City, Michigan, right? And so I had 2 days, and Chicago's right in the middle there. And so I was like, all right, like I'll go into Chicago. And then I had to pick up a headliner on Sunday and deal with all that. But I was like, I got Friday and a Saturday. The Friday show I did kind of a bust, but Saturday they put me up on the late show at at the Laugh Factory, and I was up last on the late show, and I was like, "Ooh, they must have heard. I guess I'm closing it out. What a what a deal for me." And then, you know, the late show like doesn't start till 10:30, 11. By the time I went up on stage, it was after 1. It was probably like 1:15 and people are like hammered. They're doing a check drop. But like there was a crowd in there and the crowd was hot. A couple comedians before me had kind of struggled a little bit. But like I remember thinking, I was like, man, these are drunks. These are my like I've been working bar shows and doing my own thing for such a long time, you know? And to be able to my wife's grabbing the dog.
that's cool.
Yeah. Say hi. There she is.
Hi.
Oh, so I've been doing bar shows for drunks for such a long time. And dude, this is so you're gonna love this as a comic, like because I am gonna toot my own horn. Dude, I tore that up. I got like a standing ovation. I did like 10 minutes to close out that show. And I annihilated that spot. I was like, because people don't realize this. Like I've been like I headline like I do in the Northwest. I've been headlining a long time and doing 10 minutes. I was like, all right, we're doing greatest hits. Let's go. I got a
Mhm.
10-minute set, like high energy, like I'm doing wild ass jokes. Anyway, the bartender there and me hit it off, and he was like, "Hey, he's like, I'm gonna talk to Curtis. We're gonna get you here for a whole week." And that's what I did, man. And then the next time I went to Laugh Factory, I was there for a whole week.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, including one night like where I knew I was going to headline, and then another night I was on stage. I was supposed to do 10 minutes at the end of the show, but another comic didn't show up, and they were like, "Can you do 20?" And then the cook was like over. They were understaffed in the kitchen, and while I was on stage, somebody came up and held up a sign that said, "Do 30 minutes, please." And I was so into it. I'll show you something cool. I actually got it like tattooed on my arm. It says, "Do 30 minutes,
2:30.
please."
I love
And
it.
I have the sign too, you know, because
Nice.
that show, like, I killed that 30 minutes that night, and that was on like
That'd be
that
a
was like
great
a
special. Did you tape that by any chance?
What's
You
that?
just call it, "Do 30 minutes,
I
please."
have no, I had a video of it. I don't know what happened. That was kind of back. I'm so much better with video stuff now. I'm still
What do
like
you do video-wise when you're on
I
the road?
have, I'm probably recording like one out of every 4 or 5 shows.
Okay. With
And
one camera?
Yeah, just one camera, just
Okay.
for reels.
What
When
about,
I'm
like
recording a comedy special, my label takes care of that. Like Stand Up Records foots the
okay.
bill and figures all
What
that out.
about sound? Do you just use the camera sound,
No,
or does that have to
I the people, if I'm gonna use a video for reels, I want good sound. And I use pros. I get good sound, good, they're getting sound off the board. And
okay.
then, a lot of times those camera mics are good enough for crowd noise depending on where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I recorded my comedy special, it was like 8 cameras, like sound engineers and stuff. It was wild. We'll be doing
Why
that
don't
same
why don't we
thing.
transition into that? That's interesting. We don't get a lot of
Yeah.
people who have taped comedy specials. What was your experience from, selecting a venue and a label all the way through to premiere night, etc.?
Jeez. It was quite the operation. So I'm on Stand Up Records out of Minneapolis. I kind of had been on the fence about it because prior to COVID, I basically was going to record my own comedy special. I had what's their names from Porcupine Media. They did stuff here in Olympia, and I was going to crowd fund it, and then and I had a date set at the Capitol Theater. We were ready to go, and then COVID hit and blew that all up. It was like literally a couple weeks before we were going to launch this crowdfund thing. Like we had it ready to go, and yeah, that ended it all. And then it's like after COVID, it's like I'm trying to figure out like what do I look like as a comedian now? Like what's different, what's the same? It's weird. There was all this material that was kind of like in limbo. I don't know how else to describe it. But anyway, yeah, Derek Sheen, comedian I really respect there in Seattle. I asked him about it because he's on Stand Up Records. And then one night I'm in my driveway talking to Dan Schlessel about comedy, and the guy's got a Grammy. I was kind of tripping out, and I'm like, okay, like, and then it came down to it. Like, I was like, yeah, I want to be on the label. And then he was like, send me some stuff. I sent him some stuff. He was happy with it. And then we were like, you want to record an album? And I was like, I'm like, here's a funny thing, dude. I was like, I actually have a date scheduled to record already. And I'm like, it's at the Capitol Theater here in Olympia. And I do a lot of stuff at the Capitol Theater. That's like, I usually do one big yearly show now in Olympia, try to rake in a bunch of cash so I can spend it on gas money in Columbus, Georgia. So, um, yeah, we're off to the races, man. And yeah, it's stressful for me because I don't have like, I riff on stage a lot. I don't do a lot of crowd work, but I just kind of like, I like to mess around on stage. I don't really care. I don't think it matters whether, I think the most important part of stand-up comedy is just being really funny. And sometimes I'll just do my jokes as I wrote them. Sometimes I'll do them backwards, punchlines first. That's a wild card move. Don't recommend that. But you know what I mean, man? Like, and
Yeah.
so, but when I'm recording an album, like I'm like bop bop bop, like 1 through 10 or whatever. And
Mhm.
it's funny because like a lot of this album stuff, like the main thing with the album, like the most money I got is I sell my own vinyl after shows. And so like that's what I love about Stand Up Records is like in my contract basically is I'm buying vinyl at cost. So like
Right.
I can basically buy vinyl records from my label for like a pretty set price and then I sell them at a higher price. I make decent. I don't know why I'm explaining commerce to you, but buy low, sell high. It's important. Um, but then also to have those 4 minute tracks and
Mhm.
that they've gotten played on Sirius, and that's actually decent money, man. The Sirius
Nice.
XM stuff is actually really decent money. So when
How long ago did
you
the album special come out?
oh geez, when was it? I'm trying to remember. We had
More than a year ago?
October. Yeah, it was actually it's been about a year.
Okay.
So October 26th will be 1 year that it's
What's it
been out.
called?
It's called Round Trip, and yeah, and you can see it on Amazon, iTunes, all
Nice.
that stuff.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah,
check that out. Sam
yeah,
Miller.
it's pretty sweet. I'm actually really, really pumped on it. I'm very, very happy with how things have gone. So I have no complaints. So just a
Nice.
second, this shit's
Uh,
tripping out. My computer's tripping out.
okay. Well, we
Oh,
can
you're
see
all
you
right.
and hear
No,
you.
I can still hear you and see you guys. It's just it's being stupid. So
Okay.
yeah, don't
Um,
worry about me.
you're just getting Roblox notifications.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He is still signed up into Roblox, the freaking turd. God, I couldn't believe that. What a turd.
All right, let's kind of start winding this down. Let's talk about show running. You mentioned you have a room. You mentioned you run an annual show in a theater. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know do you remember the very first show you ever ran and why you ran it?
Dude, you know what's funny is that I could have talked about this, but I ran a show for like, I mean, I ran an open mic with a feature spot for 4 years, a weekly.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a
W-
plaque on my wall for it was called Vomity, and it was at the Voyeur Open Mic Comedy, and it was very successful, man. We did really well.
Nice.
And you know, anybody who books rooms now, and you know, I'll be honest, like this thing, I have a partner that I'm doing this with now. I work with Cozy Comedy. They're great bookers out of Washington State here. Book a bunch of stuff, and I trust them, and they help with stuff. And it's my job is to promote and perform, and I get like a nice cut of the door.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my job, man. Is like, and when I was running my own show, and even as a comedian now, like when I'm trying to get people out to a show or trying to promote myself and my comedy and trying to make it work, the best thing I can do is to try to get other people excited about comedy. And the best way to do that is to let them know how excited I am about comedy. And I still am very excited about comedy. Like, I love that I get to do this. So it's not hard to like tell people that I am. And like, I think a lot of comics, like, I'm an extrovert. So, like, dude, I'll be at a gas station in the middle of nowhere, maybe an hour from my venue. And like, yeah, like I'll do all kinds of weird stuff. I'll give them signed headshots. I'll like do all kinds of crap. Tell them that I'm a comedian. I go to little hole in the wall barbecue joints in Arkansas because maybe they don't come to that show that weekend. But man, like if they had that happen and then they're on Instagram and one of my reels come up and then they're like, oh, that's that dude. And then next time they're gonna see me. Like I
Yeah.
always talk about comedy, man. And I especially like Seattle, Portland, like the Northwest, of course, Olympia, like that's the thing, man. I'm growing and growing because I have a growth mindset. Like that's all it is. It's
Yeah.
it's it's really not that hard. If you're funny, it's not that hard to be a comedian. Like it really isn't. Well, the social media stuff. I had somebody tell me one time that people are like, oh, people are always like, oh, comedy's hard. Comedy's hard. No, comedy's difficult. Working construction, like laying concrete in Ohio, like that's hard. You know what I
In the
mean?
dead of
Like
summer.
that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not great when you're in Boca Raton and there's 6 people in a 250 person theater, but there's
Yeah,
always the
that was
next
difficult. That was difficult.
what was one thing you learned in that way back when those 4 years running that mic? What's something that made the mic better? Something you changed?
Man, like embrace the folks that are around you and also have a great relationship at that venue. Like that's something that like has always worked really well for me is that like I have people that I can trust and people that care and that's how you do it. Like that's how you do it. Um And if you have somebody who cares about you, cares about the show, cares about comedy, and you feel the same way with them and you care about the venue and you care about the thing, then because it's what it is, like because the better the show is, the better the venue does, the better the venue does, the better the show is.
Yeah.
Like
It's a
and
like
it's weird, like you
a
I think
momentum thing.
yeah, and there's like obviously like people need to make money and there might and we question sometimes like what we're talking about is like how we value ourselves and how we value other people and I think there's a lot of comics that undervalue themselves. There's a lot of bookers that overvalue themselves and also vice versa. There's a lot of comics that overvalue themselves and there's also a lot of comics and venues that are so obsessed with this idea that they're competing with each other when like I don't even really see myself as competing with other comedians so much as competing with Netflix and people just staying home and
Yeah.
watching that Menendez documentary. That's what everybody's on right now. Because that's what they anytime anybody wants me to do stuff like doing this podcast right now, it's like it's during the Seahawks game. Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, what are the Seahawks doing right now? You know?
NFL is the bane of my existence as a comedy show runner.
Oh
Like all
yeah,
I
dude.
do is check the NFL website. I'm booking things in January. Okay, is
Yeah,
there a football game that day? Are the Broncos
yeah.
going to make the playoffs? Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
It's
crazy.
bonkers. I do wanna come out to Colorado and do your stuff, man. I got people in Colorado. We just gotta make it work
That'd
somehow,
be
you
awesome. I
know?
run almost 100 shows a year now, so
That's
uh,
crazy.
I know. It's not that much when you think about it. It's on a month by month basis. It sounds more impressive when you say it by year, but
Yeah.
and a lot of it is just repeat work, like copy and paste.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
setting up
dude.
the ticketing and the posters and
Yeah,
the
dude.
relationships with the venues and
It's
getting
not it's
people to
not
come
brain
out.
surgery. You know what I'd love, man? This is something too for me when I'm booking stuff, is that if I can get something from, like, Thursday to Saturday and get, like and know, like, have, like, a guarantee, like,
Yeah,
that really helps, and then because you know what I mean too, man. Because airfares, a rental car, like, all that stuff's expensive,
it's
so,
crazy.
yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, man. You're the best, Sam. So
Oh,
fun.
thanks,
So
Mark.
fun to be
You're great
around.
too, man.
A great parent, for those of you who were
Yeah.
watching in the
You could
beginning.
definitely hear it when I came in here, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing, you little shit?" I meant it too. They're little shits. Yeah. I
Where can
love
people
my I
find you?
love my I love my kids more than anything, but I regret fatherhood every single day. Like, I really do. Like, it's so stupid. What was I thinking? What was I thinking?
How many more years you got until the last one graduates high school?
Dude, I don't know, because 'cause they're dumb, so it's gonna take them a long time. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, I don't know. People ask me that question. They're like, "Oh, won't it be great when your kids are 18 and move out of the house?" He's 11 and he doesn't wipe his butt. What makes you think he's gonna move out at 18? You know? I'm gonna turn that into a bit. That's pretty
Incredible. Incredible.
good.
What's your Instagram? Where can people find you?
Oh yeah, Sam Miller Comedian on Instagram, Sam Miller Comedy on Facebook, Sam Miller Comedian on TikTok.
All right.
Um,
You got a date yet for your annual Olympia show?
yeah, December 13th, man.
December
Olympia,
13th. You're in
Washington,
the Pacific
Capitol Theater.
Northwest. Make a
Yeah.
trip. It's
Yeah,
beautiful that
and I'm
time of
gonna
year.
be nude too, but, like, it'll be, like, art nude. It won't be, like, sex offender nude. I'll be,
Nice.
like,
All
art
right.
art nude.
We got some notes from North Carolina. All right, everybody. Thanks
Yeah.
for tuning in. We'll be back next Monday. Always Booking Comedy. Sam, you're the best. We'll get you out to Colorado. Stick around for a second. We're going to end this right